Okay, here we go. Never mind, I'll find a new route.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Uh, so glad you are enjoying the rest of the summer. This is Job and Tap with the Freightliner Cascadia. Um, and we're going to start with waste paper in Washington. So you'll know where it is. And in this game. And let's go for a ride.
Keep right, and then turn right. Turn right. Keep right, and then turn right. Turn right. It's all over now. Time to hit the road.
And then Trump, out of the blue, talks about a 20% tariff. And then Trump, as he backtracked or at least changed directions, talked about big investments from these wealthy Gulf countries, which they've already done in the past. So, yeah, that could happen, but it still doesn't solve the problem of opening the strait fully and getting back to 100+ ships a day going through the strait.
One more thread of Iran policy that has shifted. If we recall, back when this war began in February, our understanding was that a major goal, was stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. This week, on Tuesday, the president told Trey Yingst of Fox News the goals of this war have been achieved.
So your objectives are to ensure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon, to keep the strait open, and to degrade the Iranian military. Can those objectives be completed in an air campaign alone, or does this require a ground component?
Well, I think they're completed now, honestly. If we left right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild what they have. The only way you can negotiate with these people is through strength, and the only strength is military strength. And that's what we've done. And I mean, literally 2 days ago, we had a deal, and then they broke it at the last moment. They broke it.
Greg, this one to you. I'm just trying to figure out the basic question. If the objectives, U.S. objectives for this war have been completed, why are we still bombing them every day?
Yeah, very fair
Caution,
question.
please mind the speed
And I think just objectively, the objectives have not been completed. The same kind of Iranian regime remains in place, even if the faces have changed. The nuclear program still exists, although it has been set back with attacks last year and perhaps some more this year. Iran can still clearly carry out missile and drone attacks. So to claim that these objectives have been completed and the U.S. could somehow just end it today just doesn't stack with what we're seeing, hearing, and getting out of Iran.
That was NPR's Tom Bowman and Greg Myrie. We were speaking on NPR's National Security Podcast, Sources and Methods. Right. You can listen to our full conversation wherever you get your podcasts.
At least two people have died in dangerous flooding that happened overnight in the Texas Hill Country. That is the same area where 130 people, including 25 young girls at a summer camp, died in a flood about a year ago. For days, the state has been pounded by heavy rain, which caused flooding in many places. Lucio Vasquez, reporter for the Texas Newsroom, is there and joins us now for more. Hi, Lucio.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So what is the latest that you're seeing at this point?
Yeah, well, the rain has eased up for now. The Guadalupe River is still incredibly swollen, though. Along the riverbanks, you can see the trees bent over at almost 45-degree angles by the sheer force of the current. Search and rescue crews have been responding to calls throughout the day, and evacuation orders have been issued for some communities along the river, though it's still unclear as to how many people actually left. There is some good news. I know you mentioned the deaths in this area last year. Since then, makers have made safety changes, including flood sirens, and Governor Abbott says for the most part, those seem to be working.
But what if people out there have been telling you as they're processing all of this flooding yet again?
You know, it's a mix of relief and exhaustion, like a feeling of deja vu. Though people I spoke with told me that this time around they've been receiving many more alerts on their phones, which was a point of contention in the wake of last year's flood. I spoke with former Kerrville Mayor Judy Eichner this afternoon in front of the raging river. It was really loud, but she told me that last year's flood was like a tsunami because it came so suddenly, whereas this time it's been days of relentless rain.
What hurts me the most are the businesses that this past year we're trying to recover from, and for a lot of them upstream, they're ruined again. They're starting they will have to start all over again.
You know, she told me the scale of flooding is unlike anything she's witnessed in 35 years she's lived here, and I've heard the same sentiment from several people that the river is different now, and part of that is climate change. Floods are becoming more frequent and severe in most of the U.S. because of more extreme precipitation, and sea level rise. And that severity was felt by Michelle Brown. She's a truck driver from California who I met in the lobby of my hotel. She told me that she and her coworker were headed to Houston through the heavy rain when they pulled over to the side of the road and ended up getting swept into the rising water.
We got stranded. There was other vehicles that got stranded. Fire and rescue got stranded. And then they eventually got us out. We ended up going to the hospital because I got hit in the side by a tree.
Okay. Yeah, it's been a tough day, but she says she's doing okay for now.
Oh, that's good to hear. Okay, so do you know if this has been the worst of the rain and flooding, or is there still more to come?
You know, it might be too soon to say that the worst is over, but the heaviest rain has moved out of some of the hardest hit areas. However, more rounds of showers and thunderstorms are expected through the night and into tomorrow morning. And even after the rain ends, it's not necessarily the end of the danger, since the water moving downstream can keep rivers rising for hours after the rain stops.
Yeah. Well, how about cleanup going forward? Is that expected to take some time, you think?
I think so. You know, folks around here are still recovering from last year's flood, July 4th, and it was devastating after that one. So I can only assume that this will only add to that pressure. For now, though, this is still very much a search and rescue operation, and so we're going to have to wait and see until the water recedes to assess the true scale of the damage today.
Yeah. That is Lucio Vasquez, reporter for the Texas Newsroom, speaking to us from Kerrville, Texas. Thank you so much, Lucio.
Thanks for having me.
At 6:18 on a Thursday evening, and you're listening to All Things Considered on your NPR station, News 88.7. 90 Fahrenheit, 32 Celsius heat index values, 101 and 38 respectively here at the UH campus. I'm David Putman. Out on the freeways, still have a stalled big rig on the North Loop, 610 eastbound direction. It's right around Gellhorn, taking up a couple of center lanes. It's going to be backed up from around Wayside, if not a bit before.
HPM Plus brings you the latest news and information from around the world and across the street. Trusted journalists delivering facts, fairness, and perspective. Keeping you connected by keeping you informed. PBS NewsHour, Frontline, and documentaries that provide a voice to the voiceless. Stream live, engage on demand, and enjoy past seasons through PBS Passport. Search HPM Plus on your smart and connected TVs and stay informed.
Trusted local resources don't happen by accident. It happens because listeners like you step up. Help Houston Public Media not only meet, but exceed our Resiliency Fund goal. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Support comes from Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion, presenting accessible arts programming, including the Houston Symphony, playing the music of Billy Joel and Elton John on July 21st. Details at woodlandscenter.org/performing-arts.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, offering electricity plans backed by 100% renewable energy for Texas homes and businesses. Learn more about renewable energy options at chariotenergy.com.
Support comes from the Houston Museum of Natural Science in Herman Park, featuring exhibits on dinosaurs, butterflies, stars, and ancient cultures, along with the Burke Baker Planetarium and Cockrell Butterfly Center. More at hmns.org.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses win locally and globally. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers. And from Procter & Gamble, maker of Rolaids, containing a dual active formula with the goal of neutralizing acid in seconds for heartburn relief. Rolaids spells relief. Learn more at Rolaids.com. This is NPR.
It's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Scott Detrow.
And I'm Elsa Chang. The New York Times is asking a federal court to throw out subpoenas that were issued to several of its reporters after they published stories about security vulnerabilities in President Trump's new Air Force One plane, which was a gift from Qatar. The subpoenas were issued because the Justice Department says that the leaks are a threat to national security. Investigators want the reporters to testify before a grand jury about their confidential sources. The Times says that these subpoenas were brought in, quote, bad faith and are an attempt to intimidate journalists and punish their reporting. Joe Kahn is the executive editor of the New York Times and joins us now. Welcome.
Good to be with you.
Good to have you. So first, Joe, just take us back to last Friday night. Federal agents showed up at the homes of several of your reporters with these subpoenas. What exactly is the government demanding from them?
The subpoenas themselves are a little bit vague, but ask the reporters involved to provide information the government says is critical to their investigation of a leak of classified information.
And did the government specify what information is critical?
No, beyond saying that the reporters were potential witnesses to what they consider to be a criminal violation of handling of classified information.
So these reporters have been compelled to turn over information that has not been specified by the government.
That's correct. And the subpoenas themselves are fairly vague and broad, and they are not preceded by a thorough investigation into the source or the nature of the leak. We've filed a motion to quash those subpoenas, and we're hopeful the court will take up that motion.
If the government does succeed here, how do you think it could change the way journalists do their jobs or change the willingness of sources to come forward?
I don't think there's any question that the issuance of subpoenas after a story is published so quickly, literally within 48 hours, completely undermines the notion that this was a proper investigation into what they claim is a leak of national security information. It's clearly an attempt to intimidate the journalists themselves from reporting on issues that the government or the president himself consider to be private or unfavorable to him. This doesn't follow anything like standard Justice Department procedures for looking into a leak, where you try to identify the source of the leak and you interview people who had access to the information. Going directly to the journalists like this is a naked act of intimidation.
Going directly to the journalists at the outset of a leak investigation is what's a little unconventional here, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Unconventional is a modest word. It's a complete violation of even their own internal administrative procedures for looking into a leak investigation.
But let's talk about the administration's argument here. I mean, they say that classified material was leaked, and in the interest of national security, the government has an obligation to find the leaker. So how do you, as a journalist, think about the choice between protecting national security and protecting confidential sources?
The government has its own classification system for information and obviously needs to protect certain information that is critical to keep secret for national security reasons. But in a democracy with a free press, journalists pursue information which they determine is in the public interest. This case was a very clear-cut case, in my view, of a matter that was very clearly within the public interest. Air Force One, or the jets used as Air Force One, and the security systems that they're equipped with. In this case, the new jet that President Trump has preferred to use, the donation from the Qataris, was not equipped with the same degree of defensive systems that the older jets, which are used as Air Force One, have on board. And that's a direct risk to the president himself, of course, but also the hundreds of other people, government officials, military officials, members of the cabinet, members of Congress, and journalists, by the way, who fly on those planes. That's a matter, an active choice by the president that seems well within the public's right to know about the decisions that he's making. We're not part of the government. We hold the government to account.
Explain the process for people going forward now. The New York Times filed this motion to quash the subpoenas. What happens next? In other words, what do you think the likelihood is that your reporters could still be forced to testify?
We're going to have to trust in the legal process. We have an excellent legal team. They have filed a brief already that argues that these subpoenas should be quashed because they didn't follow the standard procedure for investigations of a leak. We have confidence the courts will agree with that opinion. We don't know the results of that yet. And meanwhile, continue to report diligently on the issues about Air Force One itself, as well as the government's use of these prosecutorial powers to put pressure on independent media.
Joe Kahn is the executive editor of the New York Times. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
The actor Hal Williams has died. He was best known for playing Officer Smitty Smith in the 1970s TV show Sanford and Son. A representative for Williams told NPR that he died yesterday at his home in Rancho Mirage, California. He was 91. NPR's Chloe Veltman has this remembrance.
Hal Williams got his big break in 1972 when he landed the recurring role of the friendly neighborhood cop on the NBC sitcom Sanford and Son. Smitty and his partner Hoppy often dropped in on the show's two protagonists, the ornery widower Fred Sanford and his long-suffering son Lamont. Williams earned big laughs for patiently translating Hoppy's very stiff and formal speechifying.
So until we apprehend the suspect in question.
Into real talk for Fred and Lamont.
Until this cat gets busted, be cool on copper. And if he hits on you, contact your local firm.
In a TV interview with WKYC in Cleveland, Ohio, recorded just a few days before he died, Williams said he helped the writers develop this shtick.
We did it one time in rehearsal and the producers thought it was funny.
Williams worked steadily in both TV and film. In the 1980s, he starred in 227. The NBC sitcom centered on the day-to-day lives of a group of black middle-class apartment building residents in Washington, D.C. Williams played Lester Jenkins, a supportive and loving spouse. Here he is trying to fend off the advances of another woman.
You know, you're even sexier than your voice.
It's the light. Always look good with a three-way ball.
Born in 1934 in Columbus, Ohio, Williams worked as a corrections officer before heading to Hollywood. He was employed as a postal worker while trying to launch his acting career. He told WKYC that even after things took off for him, it was tough sometimes to get cast in dramas.
At one point, my agent was having a hard time getting me for Kung Fu and the Wans and Gunsmoke and shows like that because it's, oh, we know him, he does comedy.
But Williams proved his worth in plenty of non-comedic roles, such as the itinerant farm worker Harley Foster in the historical family drama The Waltons.
You're not headed any place particular, are you? One's as good as another when you travel, whichever way your thumb takes you.
Hal Williams continued working until very recently. Just last year, he appeared in the CBS Matlock reboot. His manager, Zena Portlock Houston, told NPR the actor had a close relationship with his fans throughout his long career.
He was always embraced so warmly, like he was truly their own family.
The nonagenarian even put in an appearance just this past weekend at a Sanford & Son reunion in North Royalton, Ohio. Chloe Veltman, NPR News.
This is NPR News.
At 6:29, you've been listening to All Things Considered on your NPR station, News 88.7. We're about a minute away from Marketplace, but first back out to the North Loop we go. It's on the eastbound side. A stalled big rig taking up a couple of center lanes in Gellhorn, and it's going to be held up from right around the east side.
Support comes from Miller Outdoor Theater, presenting Summer Symphony Nights produced by the Houston Symphony. Weekends July 10th through the 18th, the series includes music by Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Dvorak, and contemporary composers. More at milleroutdoortheater.com.
Support also comes from members like you and from Rice University's Moody Center for the Arts. Presenting Summer Jam, an afternoon of art activities featuring an indoor farmers market, live DJ, outdoor games, and more. This Saturday afternoon at 5. More information at moody.rice.edu. It's 6:30. EU.
Marketplace is supported by Odoo.com, providing business management software with integrated programs for accounting, manufacturing, and operations. Odoo, all your business on one platform.
If you're keeping track, I think I've only said economic data like 3 times this week. From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Viking, committed to exploring the world in comfort, offering a small ship experience with a shore excursion included in every port and onboard cultural enrichment. Discover more at Viking.com. And by Solidyne, offering solid-state storage solutions optimized for AI. Solidyne, AI data infrastructure built on a solid foundation. Learn more at storageforai.com. And by Schwab. At Schwab, investors get choices ranging from self-directed investing to full-service wealth management all in one place. No matter the investing goal, life stage, amount to invest, or know-how, Schwab can help. More at schwab.com.
In Los Angeles, I'm Khan Rizdal. It is Thursday today, the 16th of July. Good as always to have you along, everybody. Retail sales are where we begin today. We are still buying stuff, thank you, American consumer, but not as much as we had been buying. Thank you, inflation, underlying unease, and oh yeah, don't forget tariffs, which have fallen out of the headlines but are still very much a thing and might be becoming more of a thing real soon. The White House announced new 25% tariffs on Brazil today, and there are more coming to replace the president's tariff-palooza import taxes. The Supreme Court said were illegal. They're coming soon, a couple of months maybe. So as we brace for tariffs, I guess it's 3.0 now. Marketplace's Sabri Benishore gets us going with how businesses are coping this time around.
Even in the flower business, tariffs will find you. Flowers for Dreams is headquartered in Chicago and does flower delivery and events across the Midwest. CEO Stephen Dime has been bracing for changes to the tariff situation.
Yeah, we're starting to work on our winter menu, our Valentine's preparation. We know we're going to be hit hard with tighter margins and some pricing pressure then. We're preparing for that because it happened last year.
Dime actually prefers to get his flowers from the Midwest, but you know, not everything grows there. So he's got to do some importing. and he's trying to place those orders early, but that is not really how flowers work.
Every person up and down the supply chain reserves that right to make changes due to the delicate nature, the fragile nature of flowers.
So prices are up, and so are substitutions. And people ordering flowers for like their weddings don't love that.
No client loves that.
A lot of businesses have tried, like they did last year, to front load their imports ahead of new batches of tariffs. The National Retail Federation estimates port volumes surged 19% year over year in June. Jonathan Gold is Vice President of Supply Chain and Customs Policy there.
You're seeing higher freight rates as a result of some of this. You've got higher costs for inventory because you're going to hold the inventory longer than you typically would.
Active Style is a company that sells Scandinavian activewear. Nate Axvig is the CEO. He orders early when he can, but it means paying for everything early too.
You're out money, and a good chunk of it before you even get the product on your website or on the sales floor.
He's had to take out loans. Some businesses are armed with know-how from last year's tariffs, how to navigate and litigate the technicalities of tariff rules. Or they have sophisticated pricing plans, raise prices on one good to pay for the tariffs on the other. But more than anything, says Randall Sargent, partner at Oliver Wyman, they're just over it.
You know, there's so much uncertainty around it, and then it's like the war gaming, and, you know, I think a lot of retailers that I talk to are kind of like, are we really doing this again?
Yep, we are. In New York, I'm Sabri Benishore for Marketplace.
Yes, we are. If you remember back to Monday, I said I thought I would say economic data 15 times this economic data heavy week. Not so, I suppose. Wall Street today, AI is bad again. It's bad, bad, bad. We'll have the details when we do the numbers. Even though it's just a Thursday and one never knows what tomorrow is going to bring us in this economy of ours, this week so far has been pretty good. We got the June Consumer Price Index on Tuesday, which showed inflation slowing for households. We got the June Producer Price Index on Wednesday, which showed inflation slowing for businesses. We got June retail sales today, as I said, up 0.2% from May. Now, 1 month's data does not a trend make. Fed Chairman Warsh reiterated that truth on Capitol Hill this week. But all of the above are things that the Fed wants. Slowing inflation, a resilient but not too spendy consumer. So is that enough to make the central bank feel at least a little bit better about things? Here's Marketplace's Kristen Schwab.
Sometimes we talk about the Fed like it's one person or something. But the FOMC has 12 voting members, and their views on where the economy stands.
Yeah, I guess it depends which Fed official you ask, right?
Stephanie Kelton, an economist at Stony Brook University, says we've gotten mixed messages from Fed officials this week about the future of interest rates. But for now, that's okay, because Randy Kroszner, a former Federal Reserve governor, says this stint of good data creates a buffer.
That takes pressure off the Fed from having to raise rates. I think the Fed is going to be on hold for a bit.
On hold, no rate hikes or cuts to suss out the situation. A little hard to do when the situation is changing. Mark Sandy is chief economist at Moody's Analytics.
All eyes on the Iran war. I mean, I think that's key, critical. If oil prices keep going north, we got a problem.
Sandy says energy prices influence Americans' long-run expectations of inflation. So far, those expectations have stayed steady. But who knows how consumers will feel now that gas prices are inching up again.
If inflation expectations do start to pick up, then we will see those rate hikes.
Another run of high gas prices could also affect how business owners see the economy and their bottom lines. Stephanie Kelton at Stony Brook says historically, gas prices take a while to work their way through the supply chain.
You don't feel the impact all at once. It seeps through the system slowly, and things like packaging and insurance and transportation costs.
So, yeah, the Fed has more time to mull things over. But after their next meeting at the end of July, who knows? I'm Kristen Schwab for Marketplace.
one where you know where everything is, you know what they have, what they don't, when it's crowded, when it's not. Sometimes it's one of the big chains. Sometimes it's something more local. If you live in Ohio or Western Pennsylvania, you probably know Giant Eagle. It's a regional chain. It's been around for 90 years, has 200 some odd stores. It's struggled over the past couple of decades and was just recently bought by Kroger, a national brand about 10 times its size. Groceries are a challenging business, but Kroger's hoping bigger really is better, as Marketplace's Kelly Wells reports.
For decades, Giant Eagle was the most popular supermarket in Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Just kind of your standard grocery store.
Strawberries and blueberries, buy one, get one free.
Has a bakery and a meat section, has a pharmacy and a gas rewards program, and a pretty loyal customer base. We Clevelanders call it Jeagle. In Pittsburgh, where the chain comes from,
my mother-in-law calls it Giant Eagle, and that's Pittsburghese.
Becky Toth is a Giant Eagle shopper who actually began her life in the same Western Pennsylvania township where the chain is headquartered. She's gotten her groceries there her whole life.
I've always had good experiences there, and they've always been really close to my house.
While Toth has stayed loyal, other folks have left. And not just Giant Eagle, but that whole genre of grocery store. Safeway, Albertsons, Publix, Kroger.
That's a format that has been losing ground for quite some time in the food retail landscape in the U.S. and at a pretty dramatic rate.
Ricky Volpe teaches agribusiness at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. He says today it's mostly baby boomers who shop at these old school supermarkets. Volpe says they went from commanding about 80% of the market in the U.S. in the 1990s to about half today, and still falling. Case in point, Giant Eagle is now the second largest chain in Cleveland and Pittsburgh, ceding the top grocer title to Walmart, because Walmart's cheaper.
My vat of iced coffee that I started buying like 4 years ago was $5 when I started buying it. And now at my Giant Eagle, it is $7. Such a short, it's stunning. And what's even more stunning is that if I get it at Walmart, it's still $5.
Becky Toth will shell out the extra $2 because Walmart is a half hour away.
I just don't want to spend my one wild and precious life driving to Walmart.
And Giant Eagle is down the street. But she says if they were side by side,
I probably would go for the cheaper option. I mean, it's 2026 and I teach musical theater for a living, so I'm not rolling in it.
The traditional supermarket is losing ground with two groups, the price-sensitive shoppers of Walmart and Aldi, and the quality-conscious folks who go to Whole Foods and Sprouts. So Ricky Volpe of Cal Poly San Luis Obispo says if the old-school grocery stores want to survive,
the only avenue towards growth in that sector has been through mergers and acquisitions.
The idea here being, if Kroger approaches a production facility and wants to negotiate lower prices, the facility is more willing to give a break to a company with 2,000 stores than one with 200 stores.
Some of those reduced costs from larger volume are from bargaining power.
William Masters is a professor of food policy and economics at Tufts University. He says as Kroger buys more stores, it gains more bargaining power, which lets Kroger sell stuff cheaper than Giant Eagle ever could.
So I got curious and I did a side-by-side shopping basket, and it is appreciably cheaper at Kroger simply because Kroger's store brands are consistently less expensive.
The other benefit is that Kroger's got more fulfillment centers and more trucks going more places that can get filled more efficiently and drive shorter distances.
And so the cost per unit of stuff is just a lot lower. So there are genuine scale economies.
That's the bet Kroger's making, and it's a bet Becky Toth wants to see pay off.
I think everyone in Pittsburgh is really hoping that this merger means that just day-to-day costs of operating the Giant Eagle company are going to go down, and then maybe food prices will go down a little bit.
And any Econ 101 student will say that that makes sense, says Ricky Volpe with Cal Poly. Only problem is Walmart has already mastered that game.
That is why they have been the #1 grocery store in the United States since 2000.
But where Kroger can compete with Walmart
is in terms of product quality, customer experience, cleanliness in the stores, all that, fresh produce.
All nice things that can make food prices go up. I'm Kaylee Wells for Marketplace.
to brand and image and social media and reality TV. It comes in the form of a story I saw in Business Insider the other day about real estate brokers in the red hot and thus ridiculously expensive San Francisco housing market. Alcina Lloyd wrote it. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
When we say luxury real estate agents, what are we talking about here? Give me a sense of what these folks are doing.
They are working with multi-million-dollar homes. So think of luxury properties in Los Angeles or Manhattan. They are working with clients that are sometimes a part of the 1%.
And you have to kind of look the part, which is the gist of this story.
Oh, definitely. You definitely have to look the part. You have to make these clients feel comfortable to interact with you, and that's what a lot of these agents are trying to do with their appearance.
Hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, clothes, Botox, all of it.
All of that. I mean, it really depends on what agent you're speaking with. Some are spending hundreds and some are spending thousands, like you said. One California agent that I spoke to estimates that she spent as much as $100,000 last year alone on clothing.
$100,000 is a lot of money, well above median household income, as we know. So this is not in the realm of reality for a lot of people. But in the same way that sort of haute couture trickles down to Target and all the rest of them, this is a brand play. It's a content creation play. It's all the stuff that we see now in a huge part of the rest of the economy.
Definitely. I think luxury real estate is obviously an extreme example, but I do think it reflects like a broader shift in today's culture where personal branding, aesthetics, and online visibility are becoming a key part of the job.
Yeah, keep going on that, because this is that to the extreme, right?
Oh, definitely. I think it's especially so with luxury real estate because we've seen so many reality TV shows pop up over the last couple of years. Shows like Selling Sunset, Selling the OC, Owning Manhattan. They kind of turned agents into quasi-celebrities. And I think that glamorized aesthetic bleeds into client expectations, even for people that aren't on television.
Yeah. One is obliged to mention here, as with anything that has sort of a cultural moment tint to it, social media, right?
Oh, definitely. Social media is a huge part of it. I think it's definitely raised the bar. I think agents used to rely heavily on networks and referrals. Now many are expected to be constantly visible online. They're making listing videos and personal branded content. One South Florida agent that I spoke to said she gets about 90% of her business from Instagram and TikTok.
Wow.
And she spends about $1,000 a month on clothing for her videos.
Wow. That's a lot. That's a lot in referrals, and that's a lot of money on clothing. Here comes the subjective question, which I'm obliged by my own conscience to ask. When you were reporting this story, did you not look at it and say, really? Is that what we're doing now?
I think a big question people have is this just vanity? Yeah. But the agents I spoke to do not see it that way. I mean, they really do see it as a serious means of building confidence and establishing credibility in this industry. They're working with people that want to work with people that look like them. And I think this is honestly about selling an aspirational lifestyle.
Right. Alcina Lloyd at Business Insider. Alcina, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Coming up.
I'm in shock that parents are actually paying that much money.
Oh, trust me, they are just as shocked as you are. First, though, sure, why not? Let's do the numbers. Dow Industrial's down 105 points today, about 0.2%, finished at 52,552. That's a lot of fives and twos. The Nasdaq sank 387 points, 1.5%, 25,881. The S&P 500 down 38 points, about 0.5%, 75.33. Kroger rang up 3 0.6% today. We were talking about them. Albertsons, which owns Safeway and Jewel Osco and Shaw's, expanded 3.2%. Walmart added about 2 0.2% on the day. Insurer United Health Group increased 1 0.2%. Cigna gave back about 4 0.7%. Bond prices fell. The yield on the 10-year T-note rose 4.56%. You're listening to Marketplace.
The numbers are supported by Odoo.com, your entire business on one platform.
Marketplace is supported by JLL, a commercial real estate firm using data and AI to transform how clients find, manage, and invest in properties around the world. JLL.com. JLL. See a brighter way. And by Progressive. Progressive Insurance helps protect a wide variety of small businesses with over 30 customizable coverage options to choose from. It's protection tailored for individual business needs. Online quotes and information available at progressivecommercial.com. And by Raymond James, wealth management, banking, and capital markets solutions inspired by people. That's the power of personal. Disclosures at raymondjames.com.
The next moment Houston needs answers could come without warning. A storm, an election, or even breaking news that affects your community. That's when trusted information matters most. 1 year after federal funding was rescinded, Houston Public Media is 85% of the way to our Resiliency Fund goal. Now, $650,000 remain. Your gift helps us stay ready for what comes next. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Hello, I'm Ernie Manous. Our show, Hello Houston, is live on the radio on News 88.7 from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. weekdays. But we can also give you video access to Hello Houston 24/7. Just head to our YouTube channel for full shows and isolated segments like my interviews with local and national celebrities. It's Hello Houston, giving you full access to our show 24/7 via our YouTube page. So catch up on those missed episodes. For more info, check out the Hello Houston page at HoustonPublicMedia.org.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Risdall. We got an update on business inventories this week, how much stuff there is on store shelves and in the back room. Up just a touch is the headline, which in translation means we are still buying stuff at a pretty good clip. Inventories tend to pile up when we're not. We have been talking to our regulars this week to hear what they are seeing out there as they run their small businesses. Ali Trila owns a skate shop called the Bruised Boutique in Nashua, New Hampshire.
Business is a little strange right now. I think people have been very anxious. So roller skates and skateboarding and stuff like that tends to be a secondary thing to groceries and, daycare programs, stuff like that. But we're still seeing some steady people coming in, so we're holding on. The cost of the items are staying flat. Some are even going down a little bit. However, the cost of shipping goods has been rising. As soon as a vendor puts out a new price list, we've been trying to dynamically keep up with our pricing. It's caused a lot of influx in work for us to do, like busy work for us to do. We've had to hire a few part-time employees to kind of keep up. We're not making more money, but yet we're spending more money. My biggest challenge right now is planning for the future. I think about closing the store more often than I think about its future, and this is the first time in this 18 years that we've been in business that I've ever had those thoughts. I don't think we're close to that, but those are the thoughts that have never entered my mind before. It's always been the future just keeps getting brighter and brighter, and this one it's a little mentally challenging. I ended up saying to myself, I need to find that joy again. And so I took 15 minutes every day and I skated. To be honest, the first 15 minutes was probably more like 10. And then something magic happened and I saw my employees start doing that on their lunch breaks. I think that joy is contagious, and I think that it helps everybody remember why they love to be in your shop. What I'm hoping to see in the next few months is people start to realize that things are going to be okay, that the economic situations will stabilize. If things were more predictable, we could start thinking about moving into a bigger space, or we could think about having more inventory. We could just start moving forward again with our business.
Moving forward is good. Ali Trila at the Bruised Boutique in Nashua, New Hampshire. some of the World Cup, right? And maybe you marveled at the athleticism on the field and the spectacle off it. And also, maybe if you're wired a certain way, you said to yourself, this is a big business. Fact check, true to the tune of billions of dollars. But even way farther on down the athletic food chain, sports are expensive even for parents whose kids harbor no illusions at all about going pro. From New York, James Bennett II.
When Peg Enon was younger, she was an athlete. Played softball, basketball, rugby, and soccer. Today, she's a single mom with 3 high school-age sons who play the beautiful game here at a soccer academy upstate. She says sports give her kids something important.
One thing I wanted for my kids was consistency. And then I wanted to make sure that they were going to have excellent role models.
And she says it's working.
I've seen my kids turn into great students, great friends, leaders on their team.
But the expenses, $70 tournament fees, $500 uniforms, goalie gloves that run up to $120 a pair and only last for 3 or 4 months. And then there's the travel. Sometimes it's a drive to Virginia, or a flight to Missouri, or even Portugal. A hotel can cost up to $250 per night.
It's always been a struggle for me. When I look back, they might be all out of my home, they might all be in college, and I might be working 7 days a week to pay off my debts, so that's kind of scary.
The days of cheap and affordable sports, even at the level of local recreational leagues, are largely behind us.
Public spending has declined for local programs, Parks and Rec. The community-based sports have seen a decline in funding.
That's Linda Flanagan, who studies the commercialization of youth sports. She says that as public funding declined, private equity investors noticed something about sports like baseball, soccer, and basketball.
There's money to be made in youth sports because, in large measure, parents will not skimp on their kids' development, especially athletics.
One group backed by private equity charges up to $440 per year for parents just to access footage of their kids' hockey games. Another has run youth leagues and has been buying up flag football fields and baseball facilities, including one in Cooperstown, New York, the spiritual home of baseball. By consolidating leagues and the necessary infrastructure to play, these companies can easily raise participation and tournament fees. And as private equity has professionalized youth sports, younger and younger kids have been getting elite coaching.
The privatization has the effect of shutting out kids on the public school teams, too. You're not going to be able to join as a 9th grader.
The competition is just too stiff. And when it looks like pay to play is the only way, and you don't want to go into debt, you have to think outside the box. Today, Jane Ayer Van is a single mother to 3 kids. 2 daughters play tennis, her son plays basketball. She played the game herself at Iowa and Fordham. In the 80s and 90s, she says, her biggest sports expenses were new shoes. Today, things are different.
I'm in shock that parents are actually paying that much money.
Basketball for her son costs more than $10,000 a year, plus roughly $2,000 for travel. She's found ways to trade her time for discounts by pouring into the youth sporting community. She's formed league parent associations. She organizes fundraisers and workshops and sometimes steps in to coach the kids herself. She's helping one of her son's leagues transition to nonprofit status. She's hoping to bring a technique over from one of her daughter's tennis organizations.
Families could go to the program director and say, listen, I'm going to be short a couple of $100. How can you help me with this burden, and how can I still keep my kid in this program?
And more often than not, the league gives parents financial relief. And that couple $100 in this sporting world, it can make a noticeable difference. I'm James Bennett II for Marketplace.
marketplace is supported by Odoo.com, offering integrated programs for sales, customer relationship management, inventory, and other business operations, designed to work together as a customizable software suite. Odoo, all your business on one platform. And by Bank of America, sponsor of the FIFA World Cup 2026, dedicated to offering solutions to help businesses meet their goals locally and globally. More at bankofamerica.com/gamechangers.
This final note on the way out today, data from Bain that I saw on CNBC, an addendum of sorts to Kaylee's piece on grocery stores. Grocery units, which is basically the way that industry counts individual items sold, fell 1.8% in June from a year earlier. That is down from basically break even when they measured it last year. If you are blaming inflation for that, yeah. Our daily production team includes Andy Corbin, Mika Ellison, Maria Hollenhorst, Sarah Leeson, Sean McHenry, and Sophia Terenzio. Will Story is the supervising senior producer. And I'm Kai Risdall. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. This is APN.
President Trump delivers a primetime speech in which he has, quote, really big news on voting machines. The president has insisted repeatedly that foreign interference sullied the 2020 election, despite intelligence reports to the contrary. The rhetoric and reality of elections in the Trump era and what it all means for November's midterms. The next morning edition from NPR News.
That's coming your way tomorrow morning at 5. And if you want to hear that address live as it happens, well, you're in luck. We'll have coverage of that from NPR beginning in 1 hour and 1 minute.
Support comes from the Energy Corridor District, home to 70,000 jobs, 27 million square feet of office and mixed-use space, and 3.8 million square feet of retail and dining space. Learn more at energycorridor.org/NPR.
Sunset at 8:23. It'll be partly cloudy overnight with a low around 79. Tomorrow's sunrise at 6:31. An outside chance of rain, though they could pop up in the afternoon. High of 93. Right now it's 90, heat index 101. Here at your NPR station, KUHF Houston News 88.7. A service of the University of Houston at 7 o'clock.
I think it's fair to say at this point that this administration believes that the mass deportation campaign, it hovers above everything else, above the protests, above the calls for accountability, the calls to defund the agency, the push to stop ICE from doing what it's doing. The goal is mass deportation, and nothing is going to stand in that way.
I'm Rachel Abrams. That's coming up on The Daily from the New York Times.
The Daily is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager, designed to help empower travelers with access to secure logins from any device wherever they are. Available at bitwarden.com.
For everything you need to know about the most important stories of the day, you're listening to The Daily from the New York Times, distributed by American Public Media. APM produces and distributes programs that entertain and engage audiences everywhere.
Live for NPR News in Washington, I'm Liddy Casey. The U.S. intensified its strikes against Iran today, hitting targets farther north and firing at a ship after reimposing a naval blockade on Iranian ports yesterday. Iran has been retaliating by launching missiles and drones at U.S. allies. The White House says it now has another 60-day clock to use military action against Iran without congressional approval. NPR's Greg Myrie says more than 4 months since the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran, the war seems to have resumed and with little accomplished.
Just objectively, the objectives have not been completed. The same kind of Iranian regime remains in place, even if the faces have changed. The nuclear program still exists, although it has been set back with attacks last year and perhaps some more this year. Iran can still clearly carry out missile and drone attacks.
President Trump is making a national address tonight focused on elections, but the White House says he may also talk about the Iran war. Minneapolis, Detroit, Boston, New York, and Washington are among major cities in the U.S. under air quality alerts today because of heavy smoke from wildfires in Canada. NPR's Ava Berger reports.
A combination of extreme heat and dry conditions in Ontario and northern Minnesota led to raging wildfires. Then this week, weather patterns forced the smoke into the Great Lakes region and down the east coast of the U.S. Health experts warn wildfire smoke is dangerous. It's made up of tiny particles that can be inhaled deep into a person's lungs and even enter the bloodstream. Here's how Dr. David Eisenman, a professor of medicine at UCLA, puts it.
There are studies that show effects on the heart with increased heart attacks and heart failure. There's strokes associated with it, respiratory illnesses.
Eisenman says, depending on air quality reports, reduce outdoor activity, use air filters, and wear an N95 mask. Ava Berger, NPR News.
The major reservoirs that hold water from the Colorado River just set a shocking new record. From member station KJZZ, Alex Hager reports the combined amounts in Lake Powell and Lake Mead is now the lowest it's been since 1957.
The last time there was this little water stored along the Colorado River, Lake Powell hadn't even been built yet. Jack Schmidt directs the Center for Colorado River Studies at Utah State University.
It's a real reminder of what a remarkably small amount of water we have left in the system. We've never been in this position. We are truly in uncharted territory.
Schmidt said Western policymakers aren't doing enough to turn things around. He compared current negotiations over sharing the Colorado River to a bus careening toward a cliff, with state policymakers arguing about who should steer rather than hitting the brakes. The federal government is expected to release new rules for managing water as soon as next week. For NPR News, I'm Alex Hager in Phoenix.
It's NPR. The Trump administration is reviving a rule that could deny green cards to immigrants who use public benefits. That could include food stamps, housing vouchers, Medicaid, and other benefits. The policy, known as public charge, appeared today in the Federal Register and will be formally published next week. The policy was implemented by President Trump in his first term, but President Biden narrowed it. Immigrant rights advocates warn it could cause families to avoid seeking assistance even when they or their U.S. citizen children legally qualify. Actor Hal Williams has died at the age of 91. He was best known for playing Officer Smitty in the 1970s hit TV show Sanford and Son. NPR's Chloe Veltman has this remembrance.
Hal Williams got his big break in 1972 when he landed the recurring role of the friendly neighborhood cop on Sanford and Son. He got big laughs for patiently translating his partner Officer Hoppy Hopkins' very formal way of talking.
So until we apprehend the suspect in question.
Into real talk with father and son Fred and Lamont Sanford.
Until this cat gets busted, be cool on copper. And if he hits on you, contact your local FUD.
Williams also starred in 227. The classic 1980s NBC sitcom centered on the day-to-day lives of a group of black middle-class apartment building residents in Washington, D.C. Born in 1934 in Columbus, Ohio, Hal Williams worked as a postal worker and corrections officer before heading to Hollywood in the late 60s to pursue acting. Chloe Veltman, NPR News.
U.S. stocks closed lower today amid a tech sell-off and a new wave of U.S. strikes against Iran. This is NPR News in Washington.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Cy Sims Foundation. Since 1985, supporting advances in science, education, and the arts towards a fairer, more just, and civil society. More information is available at cysimsfoundation.org.
From the New York Times, I'm Rachel Abrams, and this is The Daily. Two fatal shootings by federal immigration agents in Texas and in Maine have once again put a spotlight on the Trump administration's deportation tactics. Today, my colleague Hamed Al-Aziz explains how these killings signal a return to a more aggressive form of immigration enforcement, one that can easily turn a routine moment like a traffic stop into a deadly confrontation.
Caution, please mind the speed.
It's Thursday, July 16th. Ahmed, in the 6 months since 2 Americans were killed by federal agents in Minnesota, the government's deportation crackdown has felt a little bit quieter. Federal agents, of course, withdrew from cities. The protests that we saw after Minnesota really died down. We stopped seeing these gruesome confrontations between law enforcement and civilians that people had been capturing on video. And so all of this put together, I think, made these two recent shootings in Houston and then in Maine feel, at least to some people, like they almost came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment as far as the public's view, because in the months after Minneapolis, arrest numbers dropped pretty dramatically across the country. But that kind of came to an end in late June when suddenly, at least at ICE, there was this sense that the White House wanted more arrests, that the enforcement, it needed to go up dramatically.
Okay, we're going to talk about what has led to all of that, but I just want to talk about the two shootings first. We are still learning the details of what happened both in Maine and in Houston, but can you just tell us, Hamed, what do we know so far about both of those incidents?
Yeah, so the first shooting was on July 7th in Houston. And in that incident, ICE was looking for two individuals that they wanted to come and arrest. And as they're doing that surveillance, as they're looking for those two individuals, they come across a van to them that seemed suspicious. And in fact, inside this van, they believe an individual in the car resembled one of the targets that they were looking for. And so they start to look up the license plate information